Hi, Palabo here. In this episode, I'm at a Couchsurfing CouchCrash called ConnectiCOUCH in Connecticut. I learn about the Yankees, Colt revolvers, and the magic of warm Connecticut hospitality. This episode was first released in March 2021. Welcome to Flashback Friday. Now we're heading to Manchester. Do you have a football team called Manchester United?
No, we don't have one of those.
Oh, now I'm disappointed.
Meet Palabo, a full-time traveler and digital nomad from Denmark on an epic journey around the world. This is the Radio Vagabond.
Remember how I left you in the latest episode? You might want to go back and listen to that one first, if you haven't. But let me just recap.
Previously on the Radio Vagabond.
I'm in Connecticut, attending a couch crash organized by the Couchsurfing community here. They call it ConnectiCOUCH, and it's a weekend full of exciting experiences and parties. We've just done a walking tour of Hartford with one of the locals, Margaret, and now we're heading towards Manchester, just outside of Hartford, and in the car she's telling me about Connecticut being between New York and Boston. So when it comes to sport, the state is divided into Boston fans and New York fans. In football, they're either Patriots or Giant fans. I'll let Margaret pick it up from here.
And then for baseball, there's definitely the Red Sox versus the Yankees, and that's crazy. And my son was a Yankees fan, and he'd walk through the house with a Yankees hat, and I'd look at him like, what the hell is that? Are you seriously wearing that in the house? And he's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, why? And
You are no longer my son.
And he'd look at me and say, Ma, they're winners. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. That's true. They kind of are winners. But
And actually, earlier today you told the story about how Yankees became Yankees.
That's right. So the Dutch first came to this part of the country. They came up the Connecticut River from Manhattan, which, it was basically a Dutch colony, New York was. They set up a little fort in the Hartford area, what is now the Hartford area. And then at the same time, a couple years later, a English pastor from Massachusetts Bay Colony by the name of Thomas Hooker had come with a contingent of folks and some animals and stuff, and came from Massachusetts into Connecticut and settled in that same area. The Dutch weren't paying attention to this area because they were dealing with problems in Manhattan. And when they came back, they realized that these people, who are these people and why are they living in our area? And they tried to get them out, and there were skirmishes, but ultimately they said it's not worth it. And they left, but they were not happy about it, so they called them Yankers, which is spelled Jankers, but J is pronounced as a Y, and so that's where the term Yankees came from. And what that means is
in Dutch, it would probably be more like Yankers or something. Probably,
and it meant thief. You're a thief.
It meant thief.
Thief.
Okay.
You stole our land.
Oh.
Screw you guys. You're Yankers. So. And that's where it came from.
And that's so funny that
and
now
we wear it proudly.
You wear it proudly. And I bet 90% of the people who wear it proudly don't know what it means.
It means no, they have no idea what it means.
This episode is brought to you in part by this website called hotels25.com. If you're a regular listener, you have heard me mention this before. And I can't say this enough. This is a cool website. It helps you find the cheapest hotel rooms around the world. Hotels25.com. You should try it out. It actually works.
If travel is your passion and you want escapism while still upholding your work and family responsibilities, you can travel vicariously from the comfort of your own home. This is the Radio Vagabond Podcast.
The first day was our Hartford day. We had 4 different things to choose from, and as you heard in the latest episode, I chose to do the Mark Twain House and Museum in the morning and the Hartford walking tour with Margaret in the afternoon. Other options were a visit to the Old Newgate Prison, a former prison and copper mine, and adventures in the nature, a hike, a visit to Wadsworth Falls State Park, And then that river tubing I was talking to Jason about in the latest episode, where you flow down the Farmington River just west of Hartford. Before Margaret joined us, when I was exploring Mark Twain's house, she did a tour of Coltsville National Park, where Samuel Colt started his Hartford factory on the banks of the Connecticut River in 1847. Yes, that Samuel Colt, as in Colt Firearms.
Yeah. So Samuel Colt was an entrepreneur.
Here's Margaret again.
Who had wanted to gun manufacturing. He had a design for a gun. He actually started in a place in Paterson, New Jersey, and he failed. He didn't do very well. So he came up here and to Connecticut and decided, and he was from Connecticut, decided that he would start a manufacturing company here. However, he wasn't well received by the people that the legislature in Connecticut at the time, because they knew he had had a failed business. The banks didn't want to give him any money. The city and municipality didn't want to give him any land to do this stuff, but he somehow scavenged money from someplace and built up this manufacturing empire. At the same time, the Civil War was going on, so anytime there was a war, that would beef up manufacturing for weapons. And so that's, there was a kind of a bunch of things that happened that allowed him to be very successful. However, he didn't have the company long before he passed. He passed in his 40s, and he actually gave the company, he willed the company to his wife, which was back then was unheard of, and it was a scandal. And his wife was young. She was in her 30s. She was younger, about 12 years younger than him. And she stood like 4'9", and small woman. But she ran that company like a boss. She was badass. She took care of the community, took care of people. She ran the company with his vision.
When are we talking about? In the
Elizabeth, 1862, I think he passed away.
She couldn't vote, but she could run a company.
Yeah. And she did really, really well. She made tons of money, supported thousands of people in, their work by manufacturing this stuff, and, leaves a legacy today. So Elizabeth Colt, she's one of my personal heroes. Yeah.
Samuel Colt himself, he was kind of a strict leader.
He was a bit of a megalomaniac and a bit of like military precision kind of guy, and he really wanted it to be pretty austere. Like people, they did one thing good, and that was it, and they were going to do it repeatedly every single day the exact same way, and if they deviated any which way, they were fired.
He fired more people than Trump. Well, maybe not.
I don't know, but there are accounts of him firing people because they were late to work, because they fell asleep at work, because they just they were being sloppy, because they weren't dressed appropriately. I mean, he would just fire people.
Or if they had a good idea.
Yes. So there was Rollins White, who was a friend of his and an engineer, and he went to Samuel Colt and said, "Hey, Sam, I noticed there was this thing on this revolver, and if we do this, we'll improve the design, blah, blah, blah." And he was like, "How dare you come and try to, up one my design, because my design is the best and you suck, so you're out. You're out."
So he was fired to point out we could improve the product?
Yep, you're out. So he promptly turned around, got the patent for it, went to Winchester, which was in New Haven, Connecticut, and said, "Hey, you guys want the patent on this?" And they're like, "Yeah, we want the patent on that." And they took the patent, and they gave him, Rawlings White, they gave him 25 cents per every gun and he didn't care, I don't think. I honestly don't think he cared. He just wanted to screw Samuel Colt because he was pissed off at him for being that way. And so the Winchester people, so what happened was Colt would try to improve his design, and the Winchester people kept bringing him into court for antitrust violations. And so he couldn't upgrade his design, and so that was kind of That was one of the funny anecdotal stories.
That'll cheat him.
There you go.
Yeah.
And now we're heading towards the official kickoff party at Tomato Joe's and Shay's American Bar and Grill in Margaret's hometown, Manchester, Connecticut.
Now we're heading to Manchester. Do you have a football team called Manchester United?
No, we don't have one of those.
Oh, now I'm disappointed.
I know.
What kind of city is Manchester?
It's kind of it's like everything else in Connecticut, kind of split in two, right? So you have this big mall area, and it's like a little city unto itself. But I live on the village side, where we live in an old industrial mills. They were textile mills. They made silk and velvet and ribbons there, and they've converted them now to apartments. So it's very historic, and it's a beautiful community. And there's a downtown area. It's kind of villagey. But the other side is more, commercialized, big malls, very kind of American, mallish kind of place. There's a lot of stores and, but it's nice. I like living there. It's very diverse, which I like. I love a diverse environment. I like people of different colors and different languages and different abilities and different everything, So I think Manchester is a really nice place for that, and still like a lovely community to raise children in. So, yeah, I like it. I really enjoy being there.
I have to remind myself that some birds aren't meant to be caged. I guess I just miss my friend. But then I also smile, knowing that I get to travel with him simply by putting on my headphones and listening to the Radio Vagabond podcast. The Radio Vagabond. Gotta keep moving.
So this was Friday. The next day was Colchester Day. Yes, another place named after a place in good old England. But I guess that's okay since we're in New England. In the first episode of this season, we were already talking about Boston being named after the small town of Boston, England. Here in New England, we also find Bristol, Leeds, Oxford, Cambridge, Southampton, Dover, Ipswich, Essex, Middlesex. I can keep going, so I will. Kensington, Lancaster, Bath, Surrey, Nottingham, Kent, Coventry, Westminster, Sheffield. And this is just around 5% of the English location names that have been reused here in New England. Yeah, Google it, my friend. And if you think that Manchester here in Connecticut is the only Manchester in New England, think again. No. As far as I can see, they have at least one Manchester in each of the 6 states in New England, and there are 35 Manchesters in total in the USA. On that note, I might add, not a single woman's Chester. But that might come soon after the Mr. Potato Head controversy. If you're listening to this sometime in the future, you won't understand what I'm talking about here. But this was a thing that was a big part of the news here in March 21. But there are Manchesters all over. And as far as I know, also not a single Manchester United. Please correct me if I'm wrong on the radiovagabond.com/contact. And I might be, because I'm wrong all the time. For example, I was wrong about something I said last week. Not one thing, 2 things. When we come back, I'll tell you what. Stay with us.
You can see pictures, videos, and links and read much more on the radiovagabond.com. You can also send a few lines to Palabo and get featured on the show. Tell him where you are and what you're doing right now as you're listening to these words. Just click on Contact on theradiovagabond.com and fill out the form.
Okay, confession time. 2 things I said in the latest episode was wrong. Number 1, I said that Couchsurfing was totally free. It was when I joined, and it still is for most of the world, but not if you live in the US. With COVID and people not traveling, understandably, they needed money to maintain the site. The base rate for becoming a member of the Couchsurfing community is now $14.29 per year. But as I mentioned, only if you're American. As of this recording, that might change. If you're a verified member, like I am, you get a free year, even if you're American. On their website, they write, "Due to the impact of COVID-19, we need your immediate help to keep Couchsurfing alive. All of us who are members of Couchsurfing believe in something greater than money, possessions, and status. It took over 14 years for the Couchsurfing community to come together. Without your immediate help, the community will be lost forever." That's what they write, and I totally understand. To be honest, the $14.29 or $2.39 per month isn't a lot. About what you can save in just one night in an average hotel. And knowing the community, I'm pretty sure that most of these members would agree. As travelers, we can't imagine a world without Couchsurfing. In my work with this episode, I wrote with Jason. He says, "It costs money to run websites, and the thousands of dollars I've saved on Couchsurfing more than makes up for the $15 a year I can spend to support it."
This is the Radio Vagabond.
So that was one thing I got wrong, or sort of wrong. The other thing I said that wasn't right was about the Telby web app that allows you to send me a voice message. I said that it only works in Google Chrome, and apparently that's not right. It should work with any browser. But thank God, Bernie Klein, the Chief Operating Officer of Telby, is one of the listeners of the Radio Vagabond and a reader of the blog, because he reached out to me, obviously with a voice message, after the latest episode.
Hi Paolo, this is Bernie here from Telby. Hope you're doing well and receiving some interesting messages. I saw on your site that you'd noted that Telby only works on Google Chrome, so I was just wondering if you'd experienced any problems on other browsers. It should be working on all the major ones, on Google Chrome, on Safari, both on Mac and iOS, on Firefox, on the latest Edge browsers. So if you have been having trouble, it would be good to understand where, and we will get that sorted. Thank you, and look forward to hearing from you.
Bernie, thank you. I'm not exactly sure why I thought that, but he's absolutely right. I tested it, and it works in all the browsers I could get my hands on, both on my Mac and on my phone. So I'm glad I got a chance to set this straight. Now there's absolutely no excuse for you not to send me a voice message. Just go to theradiovagabond.com/contact and click on the banner where it says "Talk to me." Once you've recorded it, you can get to listen to it, and if you think you can do better, just click record again and redo it. And when you're happy with it, click send. Right now, I would specifically like to know if you've ever been a couch surfer. If you have, tell me your best couch surfing story from anywhere in the world. And if you never have, please tell me if it's something you would consider doing, and if not, why not? Please record a voice message, but if you're a bit shy and prefers to write, you can also do that. Everything is on theradiovagabond.com/contact. And now for somebody who sent me a message. This one's from Ohio.
Pele, this is Dan from Columbus, Ohio. I've been enjoying your podcasts for a while now. I think my favorite is your 12-hour Africa podcast. And yes, I listen to every minute of it. If you're ever in Columbus, Ohio, look me up. I know a lot of fun things to do here. I am also a travel podcaster, much like yourself, although not a digital nomad. My show is zipping around the world. I focus on travel logistics and traveling on your own without the help of a tour company. By the way, I love Danish pickled herring. Cheers, Pele, and happy travels.
Hey, Dan. Great to hear from you. And I am so impressed that you actually listened to my record-breaking long episode from the entire trip through Africa. It's true what Dan said. It's more than 12 hours long, and by the way, completely without advertising breaks. And that you love Danish pickled herrings? Wow, I'm even more impressed. Not many non-Danish people like what we call marineret sild. Did you have schnapps with it? the Danish aquavit? You should. It sort of goes hand in hand with pickled herrings. I also wrote a bit with Dan after his message, and he elaborated that he has some friends in Odense, Denmark, which his wife and him got to spend some time with several years ago. That's probably where they had the Danish pickled herrings. And as for your podcast, Sipping Around the World, I started listening to it after I got your message. You have a great voice, some interesting stories, and a ton of travel tips. Here's a small clip from one of my favorite episodes. In this one, Dan talks about going on the ferry from Hong Kong to Macau to spend a day there. Something I did myself, so I can relate to what Dan and his buddy Bill were talking about.
Our 4 hours was up.
Which we anticipated getting there about 3. And
Yeah, so our tour was going to be kind of over at 3, and
yeah,
he's taking us to the South Island with his girlfriend, and
right.
And she turns around to us, and she at times had good English, and other times she didn't have good.
A little better than him.
A little bit better than him.
Yeah, not much.
And she's like, "Do you want to go see the pandas?" And we're like, okay. And I'm thinking, okay, Bill and I we can defend ourselves if we're going, because we're supposed to be going to the Venetian, right? And here's hey, here, you want to go to the pandas? Like, okay, I guess there's pandas. We're going along, and he and I both have a raised eyebrow,
It's a bit odd.
It's a bit odd, but we're game for it, right?
Sure.
We drive onto the South Island. Basically, we drive to the south of the South Island, and there's some cool architecture in Macau.
Very, very cool architecture.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you and Bill also did the Macau Tower bungee jump, the highest in the world. Well, I did that, and in my episode from Macau, you can hear me screaming. Again, Dan's podcast is called Sipping Around the World Travel Podcast. I put a link in the episode notes.
If travel is your passion and you want escapism while still upholding your work and family responsibilities, you can travel vicariously from the comfort of your own home. This is the Radio Vagabond Podcast.
Okay, back to Connecticut. I was spending the nights at Jason and Lee's wonderful house in Colchester, and that was where the group met up the next morning. This Saturday was Colchester Day. And again, there were several different options to choose from in the program. Between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m., there were 6 different choices. Devil's Hop Yacht Hike, Nautilus Nuclear Sub Tour, Fox Farm Brewery Tour and Tasting, Airline Trail Bike Ride, Nike Missile Site, and the one I chose, Godspeed Opera House.
Look at it. Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah.
It really is. It's the only part of this building that is a true restoration. When he built this, and in 1876, 100 years after we beat the pants off the English, we have any Brits here?
Too late.
After that, we went to Deep River Ferry, and then a visit to Gillette Castle. That looks like a medieval fortress, but a step inside the stone castle reveals the built-in couches, table trackway, and wood carvings that all point to the creative genius that was William Gillette. Super interesting building. After that, we went back to Jason and Lee's house for the ConnectiCOUCH Crash Cookout and Pool Party. They have a thing with titles. A fantastic day.
The ultimate destination for armchair travelers who are looking for inspiration to get out into the real world and let loose their wanderlust.
This is the Radio Vagabond, mostly about couch surfing, again this week. But this hasn't been the first time I've been couch surfing in the USA. Before I tell you a bit about what we did on the last day of ConnectiCOUCH, let me take you back to another couch surfing experience. That was when I met Steve from Nashville.
Hi, I'm Steve. I'm a Canadian by way of Wisconsin who currently lives in Nashville. Program computers, but mostly I try to play a lot of music.
And you told me that you have several bands.
Several. A glitch punk band called Regdar and the Fighters, a psychedelic band called Nuclear Bubble Wrap, an adventure rock band called Lipstick, and a fake punk band called Snake Vomit.
A fake punk band?
Fake punk band. We play like short grindcore songs that basically what happens is the week before a show, we go to a Steak and Shake or whatever, and we just sit down and we write down 40 to 70 song titles. And then the day of the show, we get on stage, and our vocalist will shout out one of those song titles, and then we'll play whatever we think that song should be.
On YouTube, I find a video of Steve's punk band, Snake Vomit. You see a little stage, and the first thing you notice is a guy in a teddy bear costume. He's got a gigantic head on, and he's the lead singer. Inside the head, there's a microphone, and then he has the list of the song titles and a small lamp so he can read them.
We are Snake Vomit! You wanted the best, you got the best! This first song is called Let's Get Ready to Mumble! 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 This next song
That was the entire first song, their big hit, Let's Get Ready to Mumble. And that's how it continues. 20-second song after 20-second song for around 20 minutes.
This next song is called Mandela vs. Gandhi. Rage in the Cage 98.
You can watch the entire concert in the link that I put on the radiovagabond.com should you have the time for that.
This next song is called RoboCop vs. Blade. Fleeing in the Ring 98.
You know, he'll call out, this next song is called I Hate the Government. And then we're like, okay, how does I Hate the Government go? And then we guess.
You don't even agree on a key, or?
No, we try to play off each other a little bit. It's weird because we're all of us are vocalists, really. Our vocalist is primarily a singer. I'm primarily a bassist and a singer, but I play drums in this band, despite not knowing how to play the drums at all. Our guitarist is primarily a vocalist, but he plays and has tendinosis, so his wrists just don't work.
Okay.
But he still plays guitar. And our bassist is primarily a vocalist, and she usually borrows an instrument that she doesn't know how it's tuned. All of these songs are 20 seconds long, you know, awful little songs. Like, this song is called More Doom Bears! More Doom Bears! And then we move on to the next song.
This next song is called RoboCop vs. Batman. Frank Miller Kumite 98.
But some of the other bands are melodic as well.
Right. All of the other bands that I'm in, like, write songs and practice and, you know, are organized.
If you want to listen to the entire episode, it's number 69, and you'll find it in your podcast app. Or you can click on the link in the episode notes.
This is the Radio Vagabond Podcast.
Sunday, the last day at the ConnectiCOUCH, was New Haven Day, with a walking tour of New Haven, Walnut Beach, Chauncey Peak hike, rock climbing, and what I did, a visit to the Pez factory. You know, the iconic plastic Pez dispensers where you tilt the head back and get a small peppermint candy pushed out?
Everyone knows Pez, the familiar little candies that bring back an entire childhood.
I grew up with them, as did most of us. So it was funny to be here at the factory. That was actually more like a Pez museum. They have grown into being a collector's item all over the world. The factory is here, but Pez candy was actually invented in Vienna, Austria.
Our story begins in 1927 in Vienna, Austria. Edward Haas III creates a peppermint product he markets as an alternative to smoking.
The Pez name
Mr.
comes
Haas
from
derives
the
the
German
name of his
word
creation,
for peppermint.
Pfefferminz, combining the first, middle, and last letters of the name.
In 1952,
Over the years,
Pez came to the
continues
United
to grow.
States, and in 1973,
1948,
Pez
inventor
built the
Oscar
first
Oakes
candy
friendly Pez
manufacturing
factory
facility
in North
in
America.
Orange, Connecticut.
In 1991, the first Pez Collector Convention is held in Mentor, Ohio, with Pez fans coming together from around the globe to share their prized collections.
We're at the
Since
Pez
then, Pez
Visitor
conventions
Center
and fan
that they
gatherings
opened
have
in
been held all
2011. It's over
Today, Pez is
4,000
a
square
universally
feet,
recognized
dedicated
brand
to
of
all
interactive
things
candy. See
Pez.
the largest, most comprehensive
We got to see the
collection of
largest,
Pez
most
memorabilia
comprehensive
on public
collection
display
of
in the
Pez
world,
memorabilia
including the Pez
on
themed
public display
motorcycle,
anywhere in the
the world's
world,
largest Pez
the
dispenser.
iconic Pez
Viewing
motorcycle,
visits to our
the
production
world's
area,
largest Pez
historical
dispenser,
timeline,
and a viewing
fun,
into the
interactive
production
games.
area.
Come learn about the brand that has been inspiring and innovating since 1927.
There's also PES trivia games, retail area, interactive history timeline, and much more. I was mostly amazed of how many different PES dispensers there were, and it was interesting to learn about an iconic brand like that.
2-31.
We ended the day and the couch crash with pizza in the park, and then some kind of game where we were throwing things to see who could get closest.
I'm at 12.
I'm really remembering my weekend with the wonderful people of Connecticut and all the other couch surfers at this couch crash, and I really hope that I'll be able to come back for the next one.
It's Monday morning and I have left Connecticut after spending 4 wonderful days in Connecticut at this couch surfing event that they call ConnectiCOUCH. A lot of meetups, a lot of sightseeing in Connecticut, and through these wonderful people I've been given the chance to see parts of Connecticut and hear stories, and most of all get to know the people of this state. So now I have a lot of new friends in Connecticut, and especially Jason and Lee that I stayed with for the last 4 nights. I really feel that I've gained some new friends, and that for me is the most important thing about traveling, to get new friends. Right now I'm heading back towards Boston. I'm meeting a woman called Belinda that's got a very interesting story, and I'm meeting her in around Harvard University, and I'm so looking forward to that. My name is Pelle Bo, and I gotta keep moving. See ya.
Produced by RadioGuru.co.uk.